Hey guys, back for another episode of Trump's The Art of the Deal, wherein Trump cards elements of the deal get the word out. That's one of Trump's favorite philosophies. It's to promote your work, promote yourself. He says, you can have the most wonderful product in the world, but if people don't know about it, it's not going to be worth much. You need to generate interest and you need to create excitement. He says that usually people hire PR firms or consultants to handle their image or their outside communications, but he says it's never as good as doing it yourself. As we can see from his tweets, from his books, from his communication style, he is direct, and this is something that works absolutely in his favor. He says, one thing I've learned about the press is that they're always hungry for a good story, and the more sensational, the better. It's in the nature of the job, and I understand that. The point is that if you are a little different or a little outrageous, or if you do things that are bold or controversial, the press is going to write about you. I've always done things a little differently. I don't mind controversy, and my deals tend to be somewhat ambitious. Also, I achieved a lot of when I was very young, and I chose to live in a certain way. The result is that the press has always wanted to write about me. I'm not saying that they necessarily like me. Sometimes they write positively and sometimes they write negatively. But from a pure business point of view, the benefits of being written about have far outweighed the drawbacks. So he makes the point that whether in good or bad, of course, you prefer good publicity in general, but that being talked about made him who he is, made his work known. He's going to give a few examples here. It's really quite simple. If I take a full page ad in the New York Times to publicize a project, it might cost $40,000. And in any case, people tend to be skeptical about advertising. But if the New York Times writes even a moderately positive one column story about one of my deals, it doesn't cost me anything. And it's worth a lot more than 40,000. The funny thing is that even a critical story, which may be hurtful personally, can be very valuable to your business. Now he's going to give an example about Television City. So he announced that he was going to build the tallest building in the world. And at the time, most people didn't even know about the plot of land he got. So the land on the west side uh, of Manhattan near the Hudson River. But the New York Times talked about it, whether in good or bad, to criticize the scale of the project. The effect it had is that it got the world to know about the fact that he had that land and that that was his plan. So that made things easier for him down the line, even though Television City wasn't built at the end. There were other developments with those lands, and it was ultimately a very successful project for Trump. So he benefited, as he said, like from this free publicity. The fact that he got the journalists, the media, the television shows to want to talk about it. This gave him a lot of attention and created value for his product. He says, the other thing I do when I talk with reporters is to be straight. I try not to deceive them or to be defensive because those are precisely the ways most people get themselves into trouble with the press. Instead, when a reporter asks me a tough question, I try to frame a positive answer, even if that means shifting the ground. For example, if someone asks me what negative effects the world's tallest building might have on the West Side, I turn the tables and talk about how New Yorkers deserve the world's tallest building and what a boost it will give the city to have that honor again. When a reporter asks why I build only for the rich, I know that the rich aren't the only ones who benefit from my buildings. I explain that I put thousands of people to work who might otherwise be collecting unemployment, and that I add to the city's tax base every time I build a new project. I also point out that buildings like Trump Tower have helped spark New York's renaissance. All right, so Trump is saying that you always have to pitch the positive side of the project, right? We know by now that reporters can be vicious, can have an agenda, can try to ruin someone's credibility. We've seen it many times. Trump basically, whatever the question is, he's going to give the answer that he wants to give, right? He's not in elementary school where the question is the question. He understands that the question can be a question that has an agenda, and he answers with the positives. He answers with the way he sees things and with the benefits that he's trying to provide and with the positive consequences of what he attempts to do. Right, so he doesn't give in to the question of the reporter. He says what he wants to say. He says, now the final key to the way I promote is bravado. I play to people's fantasies. People may not always think big themselves, but they can still get very excited by those who do. That's why a little hyperbole never hurts. People want to believe that something is the biggest and the greatest and the most spectacular. I call it truthful hyperbole. It's an innocent form of exaggeration and a very effective form of promotion. Right, so there's no need to detail the biggest, the greatest, the most spectacular. Right, these are things that are often in Trump's language. We understand what Trump means when he says it. He does say it often. He says it about many things, but we understand what he means when and often he is very close to being right. The scientific weighing of what he says, right? Yeah, people like to do the fact checking and take him for very minute details, but on the grand scheme of things, he is correct. He is directionally correct, and his communication makes it such that it's simple to understand. It's able to understand where he wants to go, right? When he talks about America's golden age or make America great again or like the greatest comeback in history, we understand what he means. And we don't say, is it the second biggest comeback in history, the third biggest? We understand, right? So he doesn't get lost in the minutia. He goes straight for, he appeals to people's fantasies. And he calls that truthful hyperbole, right? That's the way he promotes himself. And he's correct that without promotion, without letting the media talk about you, without being a known presence, there is simply no way for him to get known. All right, we live in a very social world. It's important for your work, for your reputation, for your character to be known out there. The way to do it is to get the word out. Right. So this is the lesson for today's sample of the art of the deal. Thank you.